Alright guys, and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be discussing what changes I personally think Classic Fresh actually does need. Please let me know what you guys also think in the comment section below, and like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. So I'm going to jump straight in. I think they need to reduce the cost to respec your talents. I think personally it should at least be capped at 10 gold. The reason why I don't like the hefty respec costs is because it makes it more difficult for people to switch between, doing battlegrounds and doing raids, because if you have to spend 100 gold every week just to do that, which is, a good 2 to 3 hours of gold farming. Personally, I like the freedom to do a little bit of, battlegrounds and a little bit of raiding. The problem is trying to PvP in your raiding spec normally goes terribly badly, particularly for a rogue. And I also think it's more difficult for healers and tanks to farm gold because they can't just switch to a DPS spec to go and farm some gold. So it would just be better if they capped the respec cost to 10 gold. I think they need to balance or remove racials, although I think this is probably too much of a radical change. I don't think anything like this will ever happen. It goes without saying, we know this now, the Horde racials are way more overpowered in raiding and in PvP. And the problem that this creates is it makes a lot more people play Horde, which causes massive faction imbalance across all servers, which makes the queues for the Horde much longer, and Alliance end up losing more battlegrounds because they just have weaker racials. It can also totally kill servers, which is never a good thing. I think they need to at least have a system where, in TBC, where the Horde can go against the Horde in battlegrounds to kind of counteract that issue. But overall, I think it's a win-win situation for people who want to play either faction if they just either remove the ratios or just rebalance them. Personally, I think I've talked about this before, I think the ratios should just be mirrored. Now, the honour system could do with some changes. Let's be honest, it's very outdated. It's a horrible grind in Classic WoW. Most people just don't have the time to do that much PvP to actually get the PvP gear. Instead, they could introduce rated battlegrounds that instead reward players based on skill rather than how much free time they have and the fact that they don't have a job. Another issue with battlegrounds releasing with launch is how overpowered the gear would be. And to be fair, if there was rated battlegrounds, it would make it even easier to get the gear, so they should release multiple PvP sets and PvP seasons like it is in TBC and Wrath, and then that gear can be balanced around how powerful the current raid tier gear is. So basically, don't just have 2 PvP sets for the whole expansion, have multiple PvP sets. They could just recolor the sets, or it would be really cool if they actually added new looking gear in the game. And just to add to this, I think the Alterate Valley Horde spawn location should be put much further south, like it was later changed in World of Warcraft's lifetime, so that the Horde don't have a serious advantage when it comes to that battleground. I think how they're doing the experience changes is a bit weird and awkward and honestly just a bit stupid. I don't understand what they're doing. It's like observing a new indie MMO developer experimenting with ideas on a beta server. Like, I don't understand why they don't just have ×2 XP rates, bosh, done, sorted, Bob's your uncle. I've played on ×2 servers before, trust me, the flow is so much better. It's not too fast and it's not slow. It's just right, it's Goldilocks level. With increased quest experience, while all the other experience isn't being increased, it will make questing too overpowered compared to dungeons. Right, you may think this is a good thing, because it will encourage people to be in the open world more. That is semi-true, that is a nice thing to have, but it's also kind of wrong, because the more people in open world content means more quest competition, which means despite the increased quest experience, when you turn in a quest, 1 to 60 will probably just still be as slow because you're having to wait around ages competing against loads of other people completing quests, or less you get ahead of the bottleneck. So for the average player, it's not even going to feel like much of an experience boost. Or less they do actually plan to introduce loads of layers like they did for the TBC Classic launch, like, there was like nearly 20 layers on a TBC Classic launch. If they do that, then fair enough, that'll be fine. But another thing I really don't like about this change is how I would feel like doing a dungeon would massively slow down my leveling speed. Say I want to do a dungeon, I've done other quests for that dungeon, so I can't really get any more XP from it. but I still want items from it, it would feel like I'm taking a detour to get those items. I don't really want to feel like that. They should just increase the XP rates ×2 across the board. It'd be so much simpler and so much better. I also think they should continue to add new raids after the Season of Mastery. You should watch my video about what, possible raids that they could be. There's a lot of ideas left over in the classic WoW world, lots of areas that could definitely be expanded. I think they should also balance the classes. They don't need to introduce like totally drastic changes to the classes. I think we just need to buff some of the meme specs to make things more interesting, so we're not restricted to just playing the same DPS classes for a second time. If, like, say for instance, the Pharaoh Druid or Enhancement Shaman were slightly more viable, it would just be a little bit more interesting, and I'd be more motivated to actually play Season Mastery servers knowing that I could play a different class for once. I mean, they could just have TBC pre-patch talents. I think it'd also be cool if they added heroic endgame dungeons. Imagine being able to go into heroic Dead Mines or Shadowfang Keep. That would be pretty cool, and it would keep high level players going to those low level zones even if after you hit max level, so it doesn't make the old leveling zones irrelevant. I think more gear would also keep things interesting, and having increased availability of obtaining gear would help with the fast release of the raid content. For instance, for every raid tier they could release 2 to 3 of the low level dungeons as heroics that give decent gear. So for instance, when AQ40 is out, they could release BRD, Upper Blackrock Spire, Lower Blackrock Spire as heroics with gear equal to like Molten Core Blackwing Lair raids. Let's be honest, AoE looting would also be an absolute godsend. Why on earth would you not want that in the game? I'm sure mages would love this for when they do dungeon farming. And lastly, just a small one, I think they should increase the drop rate on quest items. This doesn't affect the economy in any way, because it's a quest item. It doesn't make sense to have a quest item not drop when you kill the quest mob, other than it's kind of irritating because you have to grind more mobs and fight over mobs more. It's just a pain in the backside that really just doesn't need to be there. And I know that it's possible for them to do because private servers have done it in the past. Anyway guys, I've definitely rambled long enough. My name is MetaGoblin. To the next video. Ciao.